One would think that a really good player wouldn't fall victim to foolishness about knights. But let's take a look at a game of the 15th World Chess Champion Vishy Anand. You'd consider him a really good player, wouldn't you? Anand versus Ivanchuk, World Blitz, Moscow 2007. Anand's playing white. Feel free to pause this at any point if you want to stare at the game. White to move. This was the final game of the event and would determine who would earn the title of World Blitz Champion. In other words, they had to play quickly, but it was serious business. Anand had outplayed his opponent and now had a forced win. Knight d to f3, double question mark. The god of knights wasn't kind to Anand in this game. He missed the following: h7 check, king to g7. King h8 is worse because rook f1 is crushing. Let's take a look. Something like this. Black is very passive. Also, moving the knight does not look good either because of knight takes pawn check. Okay, so king to g7. Knight d to e6 check. Exclam. It's always a scary thing when animals attack. F takes e6, knight takes e6 check, king h8. I'm shocked that Anand missed this. Rook takes e6 allows h8 queen check, winning. Knight takes c7. This would have been rather nice, but having overlooked the possibility granting black a having overlooked the possibility in granting black a reprieve, the lone enemy knight suddenly takes manners into its own hands / hoofs. So instead of the winning combination h7 check, knight f3 is played. Knight h5, exclam. Rook g1, question mark. Missing his last chance to keep a slight pull. d4. And now the bishop can't take this pawn because it's defended twice. E takes d4. Much too risky is f6. D takes e5, f takes g5. Knight takes g5, king h8, rook to d6. Now, just one little short line here. It's actually really hard to defend if rook takes e5 is mating, and let's say rook e7 with the idea of capturing. Rook takes g6, and white's at least going to get their piece back with the better position. So e takes d4. e5. Don't worry about memorizing the moves or anything. I think just kind of getting the main concepts is what's most important. Bishop takes f3, knight takes f3, king h7, rook h takes d4, king takes h6, rook to d6, and white still has a pretty good position, which is not what happened in the game. Rook to g1, question mark. King to h8. White had threatened rook takes h5, creating a nasty discovery check with the rook and winning. Creating a nasty discovered check down the g file. Knight h3. Anand's once mighty knights go into full retreat mode. Bishop c8, knight f2, knight f4. A nice square, but who would guess that this lone, unassuming knight would go on a tier and win the game all by itself in just a few more moves. Knight takes e5, double question mark. This knight gets arrogant and destroys the f4 knight's defender. Knight e2. Arg. Suddenly the e5 knight and the g1 rook are both hanging at the same time. Rook e1, knight to d4. Black's knight shows no mercy. Now e5 is still hanging, so white moves it to safety. To be fair, white no longer had a satisfactory reply. The black knight had already injected its venom into the white position, and, as everyone knows, there is no antidote for a horse bite. Knight e to g4. If knight f to g4, bishop takes g4. If rook takes, rook takes. So, and if knight takes, see the fork. So knight takes g6, check. F takes g6, rook takes g4, king h7. Was a better shot, but also pretty depressing. Black is up a piece. So this was played in the game. Knight eg4. Knight to f3. Dope. Yes, it even happens to world champions. Both rooks are forked, and there's nothing that can be done about it. Knight to f6. Moving his rook to safety. The black fork against e1 and h4 isn't going away. Knight to d5. Sorry, rook d8, knight to d5. Moving his rook to safety. The black fork against e1 and h4 isn't going away. Knight to d5, rook to b7. 0-1. White resigns. White will now lose a full rook. If I was Ivanchuk, I would have taken that knight home, framed it, placed it on the wall, so I could give it a loving look every day for the rest of my life. I'm sure Ivanchuk did that. These two games have a moral. Knights are very tricky pieces and are fully capable of inflicting untold damage on the enemy position. In fact, if you come across some book that's trying to convince you that bishops are a tad more valuable, spit on it and remember what happened to poor Anand. Rule: there's a reason why many amateurs fear knights. They are very tricky and deserve your full respect. Now that I've trained you to see knights as the fearsome creatures they really are, let's deconstruct them and see what makes them tick and what makes them sick. And since bishops and knights are always at each other's throats, we'll do an occasional comparison between the two. All these reasons and examples given will be followed up by diagrams, so don't worry about trying to memorize. Knights are minor pieces, along with bishops, so the knights and bishops are the minor pieces, and are generally given a point count value of 3. So the bishop and the knight are each worth 3. The same. In general, minor pieces are an imbalance unto themselves. Knowing how to use them properly gives you a huge advantage over the competition. Knights are the best blockaders of enemy passed pawns. The reason for this is simple. Unlike other pieces, a knight that's sitting in front of an enemy pawn isn't losing any of its mobility. Advantage knight. There will be a diagram about this. The next one. Knights are short-range pieces. Unlike bishops, which can slide the length of the board in a single move, knights are more restrained. Advantage bishop. See future diagram for an illustration. Knights can jump over other pieces. There isn't anything else that can do this. Okay, my cat can do it, but he doesn't count. Advantage knight. Knights have the potential to attack or defend anything on any colored square. It may take several moves, but eventually they will get there. Bishops are always stuck on one color. Advantage knight. Knights do quite well in closed positions because, unlike bishops, pawns can't block them. Advantage knight. See upcoming diagram for an illustration. Knights crave advanced support points, i.e. a safe square that can't easily be challenged by a hostile pawn. Since they are short-range pieces, having access to such a square is a huge part of proper knight strategy. Knights gain in strength as they move further up the board. As a rule of thumb, a knight stuck on the first or second ranks is a defensive piece and is inferior to a healthy bishop. These are the first and second ranks. A diseased bishop is quite another matter than a healthy bishop. A knight on the third rank is a flexible workhorse, and so this is from White's perspective. So this is the third rank for White, the sixth rank for Black. But a knight on the third rank is a flexible workhorse and can be used for defense or attack at a moment's notice. A knight on the third often has serious central influence. See upcoming diagram for an illustration. A knight on a fourth rank support point is a very strong, flexible piece. You can count on it to ably perform both defensive and offensive duties. See upcoming diagram for an illustration. A knight on a fifth rank support point can be a beautiful thing to behold. It's a potent offensive weapon and is usually superior to a bishop. See upcoming diagram for illustration. A knight on a sixth rank support point can make children weep and women cry for joy. It's true, I've seen this. Here a knight transforms from horse to octopus, its many appendages spiking out in all directions and claiming enemy territory as its own. Such a knight is, at times, stronger than a rook. See upcoming diagram for illustration. A knight on the 7th and 8th ranks gives us a case of diminishing returns. Once past the 6th, it no longer controls as many squares since its reach runs out of the board. Once past the 6th, it no longer controls as many squares since its reach runs out of board. Usually a knight on such an advanced rank is performing some sort of tactical search or search and destroy operation.